Γεια σας παιδιά μου, καλά μου. Σήμερα θα δούμε έναν interview με τον Ryan Reynolds και τον Andrew Garfield που είναι απλά οι δυο τους και κάνουν ερωτήσεις ο ένας στο άλλο. Πριν ξεκινήσουμε, πίνετε πιαστέ καφέ. Επίσης θέλω να μου κάνετε μια χάρη. Θέλω να πάτε να κάνετε ένα like και ένα subscribe για να πείτε του αλγόριθμου ότι ξέρεις αγαπούμε τον τούτον. Εγώ τόσο ώστε να σας πει το YouTube, ok, και να σας δω και παραπάνω από αυτόν τον όμορφο εδώ. Και πείτε μου κάτω στα comments, ήρθα. Επίσης ακόμα κάτι που θέλω να εντάξω στα Sin and Chill. Θέλω να πάτε στο Instagram και να βγάλετε story το πώς βλέπετε το επεισόδιο. Δηλαδή πας στον καναπέ με το καφεδάκι, πας στο laptop, πας στην τηλεόραση, δεν ξέρω πώς το βλέπετε και κάνετε με tag τώρα τα βλέπω. Και αν τελευταίο, στα Sin and Chill θα καθόμαστε να βλέπουμε όλο το επεισόδιο μαζί. Να κόφω τα highlights και κάποια σημεία που έχω να πω κάτι εγώ, αλλά θέλετε να δείτε όλο το βίντεο από μόνοι σας, να το έχω κάτω στο description. Τώρα πάμε να ξεκινήσουμε.
Garfield, I'm a big fan, and I was nervous when I came here.
I'm either gonna die or I'm gonna follow this. And it was like Truman Show.
Are we gonna touch?
Αγαπώ και τους δυο. Αλλά λίγο είναι πράγμα τον Garfield.
It must be hard for you in terms of anyone taking anything you say or do seriously.
Well, yeah, but I once worked with Will Ferrell, and I did that with him. I was like, everything he said, which was sometimes just, as mundane as like, was a little concerned about the prostate, but it turns out it's fine. I just giggle, and you realize, oh no, he had a moment there where he. So I have a bit of that, but I don't have. That is just a poorly constructed self-defense, maladaptive coping mechanism. It doesn't.
Self-defense.
Two people are struggling for control of the gun, and then suddenly the gun goes off, and the lights go out, and for one terrible moment, we kind of don't know who's been hit. It's like that's sort of like sometimes feels like my base emotion. So I have all these other things that kind of not just cover that up, but allow me to be at ease when I might not be at ease.
You've said some very sincere things to me, and I was wavering. I was like, how do I?
Oh, right. Well,
I don't want to laugh at something that's not meant to be laughed at.
No, but it's okay to laugh. I would never think, when I meet people and I'm away from cameras and lights, to ever put on a show, or even if I'm feeling crazy on the inside, I will be quiet and reserved and kind of, it's like, what is your, if this isn't too personal, but what's the thing you kind of push against? Because having a public persona, that they never reconcile with the private, I don't think.
I think I'm a generally hopeful, positive.
Νιώθω τον
is
Garfield.
always looking for warmth and always looking for love
Και
and
τούτο
kindness in
κάνει και
every room
reflect πας
I'm in,
στους
or
ρόλους που
every
παίζει.
piece of art
Νιώθω.
I'm, engaging with, or in any given moment. I think it's probably related to my mother, because she was that, that first umbilical connection. She was that to me. She was just this pure kind of angelic love energy, and has remained that ever since. With the complications that I don't need to go into, but like, I think that's my baseline. So what did your mother do to you? To make you think that always believe that someone might have been shot in the dark?
It was my dad, Andrew. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah. Does anyone have a crude sock puppet that I can use to explain this? I think is interesting to me about my relationship with my father, which was very complicated and difficult. My dad was a very I come from a middle class, kind of blue collar home, and my dad was just of that generation where it's just like he was Clint Eastwood. Less is more. Simple grunts is how he.
Okay, gotcha.
And I think people tell themselves stories, and this sort of comes back to your worldview that you just mentioned about looking for this warmth and kindness. And
Θέλω να πω κάτι μετά που
people tell
λέγες
themselves stories
για τους γονείς σου.
other people. And then I think we have some responsibility as we grow older and more mature and grow into who we actually are to question that a little bit. And I've done that a bit more in the last 5 years, I would say, where I really know myself, where I didn't before. Like, I didn't know myself until I was probably 40-ish.
Oh, wow.
I feel, at least. And that has been the greatest gift of getting older, is like, that's a superpower into itself. But I ask that question often. Is that true? Was my dad as challenging as I like to think? Or am I romanticizing that to pave over all these other things with whatever the drug is, accomplishment, or, you know, or whatever. But the story is not true. It's not. You know, nobody's black and white like that. There's no like sort of binary code that tells us they're...
Πριν να συνεχίσει, θέλω να πω ότι έχουμε όλοι μας μια πληγή που θεωρούμε ότι φταίνει οι γονείς για την κατάσταση που έχουμε δάμε. Παστούτα θέλω να πω ότι εν φταίνει οι γονείς. Κανένας δεν έμαθε πώς να είναι γονιός. Εν γεννήθηκε κάποιος και ξέρει, ξέρω πώς να μεγαλώσω ένα μωρό. Εν λειτουργά έτσι. Όλοι μας είμαστε μωρά και βάσει των τραυμάτων που είχαμε που μωρά, κάνουμε να adjust το πώς μεγαλώνουμε εμείς τα δικά μας τα μωρά. Και κάποιες φορές, λόγω εγωισμού, μεγαλώνουμε τα όπως να θέλαμε εμείς να μεγαλώσουμε, και κάποιες φορές μπορεί οι γονείς να είναι κάποιες εγωιστικές επιλογές και μπορεί να είναι εκείνο που δημιουργά τα τραύματα. Αλλά το τραύμα είναι φεύγει με το να βάλεις το φταίξιμο πάνω στους γονιούς σου. Πρέπει πρώτα να τους συγχωρέσεις, να πεις, ξέρεις, ευχαριστώ που με μεγάλωσες όπως εμπόρες. Ό,τι έκαμες λάθος, εν φταίεις, έκαμες ό,τι εμπόρες, οπότε συγχωρώ σε και για μένα και για σένα. Γιατί και οι γονείς θέλουν να ξέρουν, ξέρεις, θέλουν να πιστεύει και το μωρό μας που είναι ότι ήθελα να το κακό του. Οπότε πρέπει να δείξεις να κον εμπάθεια στους γονιούς σου. Μετά που να τους συγχωρέσεις, πρέπει να πιέσεις την κατάσταση στα χέρια σου. Είμαι σε την κατάσταση που είμαι και οικονομικά και socially, ό,τι κατάσταση έχεις και ψυχολογικά ό,τι να είναι. Εντάξει. Είμαι σε την κατάσταση λόγω των επιλογών μου. Okay. Εγώ μπορώ να με βγάλω από την κατάσταση. Το ότι είμαι σε την κατάσταση σημαίνει έγκαμνω κάτι για να βγω. Και χρησιμοποιώ την δικαιολογία το ότι φταίει η γονή μου σε την κατάσταση και είναι πολλά παθητική του η αντίδραση. Πρέπει να έχεις πιο ενεργή αντίδραση. Ποια είναι τα βήματα που μπορώ να κάνω τώρα με τα πράγματα που έχω μπροστά μου? Ποιο είναι το πρώτο βήμα που να με βγάλει από την κατάσταση? Νιώθω ότι είναι ένα πρόβλημα τούτο και αν είσαι κάποιον που βλέπει και είναι σε έτσι κατάσταση, αν θέλεις στέλνει μου μήνυμα, αλλά ελπίζω να βοήθησα λίγο τώρα. Προχωρούμε.
I've been initiated recently into a new visceral understanding of how fucking short this visit is on this planet, in this body, in this miracle.
Amen.
And I had a different kind of urgency in my 20s and my 30s, I think, which was, as you kind of referenced earlier, kind of patching over, like trying to deal with the woundedness in a way of like whatever that addiction is, whether it's validation or like planting a flag and going, I'm safe, right? My feet are here and the sky isn't going to fall in. I'm worthy in this kind of whatever capitalistic system. And now the urgency is an urgency that was there previously has become much more predominant, which is a spiritual urgency, which is an urgency of like living life as fully and as vitally and as like I only want to do the things that speak to my soul, that I feel like I am the vessel for to get into the world, whatever that is. Like there are certain great films that I will not be a part of because that's not for me. I don't know why, but it's just not for me. And then I'm like, oh, it was for that fucking person to get in there and do it. I don't know if anything matters more than love and a kind of awakening to how miraculous and how short and how sacred being alive is. And obviously I think culturally right now there's a lack of awareness of how life matters, and that there's such a kind of destruction and a reduction of life mattering, or a soul, that we all have a soul mattering. Like there's this kind of homogeny that I feel like we're all just being kind of like made into this globule of meaninglessness. I watched the film last night. I watched Deadpool & Wolverine last night and I hadn't seen it.
You watched it on your Apple Watch, didn't you?
I as soon as it started, I was like, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way they allowed him to do all of this. So first of all, I'm wondering how you got to the place of having the audacity to write in such a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth wall breaking vibe. And then how did you convince everyone that it would work?
Well, that's a good question. I look at authorship and control, or however you want to frame it as trust. Part of my job, well, I have several parts of the job, which is one is that I have to convince the studio, who is, making a significant investment in mine and Sean Levy's ability to land the plane on a dime.
Ο Ryan, εντάξει, εδόθηκε του ένας ρόλος, ο Deadpool, και χρησιμοποιεί τον για να πει ιστορία. Είναι όπως τον Spider-Man, που ήταν ο Spider-Man το κύριο κομμάτι και βάλουν τον ηθοποιό μέσα και χρησιμοποιούν τον. Ο Ryan είναι ο Ryan, εντάξει, και βάλει που πάνω τον Deadpool και χρησιμοποιεί τον Deadpool ο Ryan, όχι η εταιρεία, για να πει την ιστορία που θέλει.
If I want to continue to play and do this, I have to figure out how to work both sides of the room here and make sure that part of my job is choosing work that that will beget more of this experience that I love.
Was that, would you say, a practical consideration as well? Because it feels like not just practical. It feels not just survival. It feels like creative simultaneously as well. Like, I'm curious about that.
I had a point of view when I had no power, and I say no power very loosely because somebody in my position has.
Of course,
I mean,
we're white guys.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like eased out with systemic power, and so I say that with a grain of salt. But what I mean is I would be on big movies, and I would be nervous, and I knew the stakes, but I had absolutely no input into what happens. And when you have a point of view and it can't be expressed, even though you try.
It's like something, a monkey rattling a cage. It's going to start chewing the bars.
Terrible feeling. And people, when you do try to express the point of view and you're sort of placated or told, that we're not going to do that, or you say something that sort of feels reasonable, like, let's stop spending on spectacle and let's spend on character. Or like, why are we putting all the money in special effects when we could just write, and that's sort of dismissed. If that happens a couple of times, you sort of go, okay, but at the end of the day, they're not writing the story about how Phyllis von Philistine movie bombs. They use the actor who's in it, right? So it's, I own the bomb. So I felt like if I'm going to bomb or win, I want to have a say in it, and I want to have some authorship. And if I'm going to bomb, I want to be the architect of my own demise. I don't want to be a passenger on someone else's nose-diving jet plane. That it did, it does.
Minutes, right?
It does. I have an unquenchable thirst for validation, and I farm out my self-worth to external approval in this way that I know shrinks will tell you steer away from that, but it's pretty damn gratifying.
It's been good for you. No, but seriously though, what does the future hold? For Deadpool and Wolverine and the franchise.
I don't know. I honestly, I'm not making this up. My feeling is that character works very well in two ways. One is scarcity and surprise. So it's been 6 years since the last one, and part of the reason is that it swallows my whole life. Like you can't take your hand off the stick all the way through development, through post-production, into marketing and promo, and then you kind of. And I have 4 kids, and I don't ever want to be on a first-name basis with any of them. No, I don't ever want to be absentee, and I don't ever want to miss stuff. Did you miss playing? Like when you came back to that?
I didn't. It's not that I missed it. It felt undone.
We missed it
for me.
Αφού βάλαμε μας το δυο ταινίες, θα μπω και τους άρεσε ο Garfield.
You're invited to a party, and then the party ends slightly like prematurely than you wanted it to end.
Και σταματήσεις αυτές που έτεγωσαν πιο κλείω.
Reckon with kind of being disinvited to this party. And that's when like the work happens, right? That's when you start to really deal with your own stuff. Soul work. This is like, it's so funny that it's been like prompted by this very but not funny at all, because it's like the 3-year-old. One of the first photos of me as a 3-year-old is in a Spider-Man costume that my mother made out of felt. So it's fucking like it is primal. It's really primal. Like, oh my god, this person, this character, it means so fucking much.
You also set the table and the stage for the best kind of redemption. And honestly,
dude, I'm
you were an amazing Spider.
Thanks, man.
Like amazing.
Ryan. That's very kind.
You were so fluid and fun, and kind of like you kept that metronome of like comedy mixed with like pathos that only a teenager would go. It's I don't know. I was really
That's really
genuinely
kind.
because movies I think are really interesting and they will talk to you. If you listen to them, they will speak to you and they'll speak to you loudly.
Yeah.
And sometimes when things go wrong, we're too focused on hanging onto the script and too focused with the shot list.
Right.
But to look around and go, whoa, what's it actually telling us?
Exactly.
Like, what do we have?
So,
and I love that idea that you can. I love being able to pivot and responsibly, not in a way that stresses people out, but
because it was like suddenly like, oh, we have an opportunity that no one's ever had, where it's like a Spider-Man support group.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Let's really go down to like the nuts and bolts of like the studs. What could that look like? What's the dynamic that we could build that is completely specific and unique to these particular spider people?
Τούτον που λέει ο Ράιαν ήταν που την αρχή στο τέλος με την Κελέγκατο να τελειώσει η ταινία. Εν τούτον που μου αρέσει στους ηθοποιούς. Το ότι σαν εμείς οι director, ας πούμε, η παραγωγή, είμαστε creative αλλά στο pre-production, ας πούμε. Γιατί σε παίρνει και επειδή έχεις την παραγωγή που πάνω και λόγω λεφτών και λόγω χρόνου. Οπότε το να έχεις πλάσματα που η δουλειά τους σαν τους ηθοποιούς είναι να μπουν μες στην ιστορία και να σου πούν πώς το νιώθουν πιο κοντά οι ηθοποιοί στους θεατές. Πρακτικά οι θεατές ενώνονται με το χαρακτήρα που βλέπουν και οι ηθοποιοί το ίδιο πράγμα κάνουν για να μπορούν να μεταδώσουν τον χαρακτήρα στους θεατές. Σαν σκηνοθέτη και παραγωγή θέλουμε να ξέρουμε πώς φαίνεται η ιστορία που θέλουμε να πούμε, γιατί σε μια φάση και μετά ξιάνουμε, είμαστε τυφλοί που το πόση λεπτομέρεια πρέπει να προσέχουμε και απλά θεωρούμε steps αντί να θεωρούμε το συναίσθημα που βγάλει η κουβέντα. Πάρα πολλά ωραία.
Last time I saw you was the Golden Globes. Garfield sitting beside me and goes, "Hey, if you if they call your name and you win, don't kiss your wife, just kiss me."
Yeah.
And of course, Gosling absolutely did not deserve it, but he of course won for as he should. And I love that you were just sitting there and just like, yeah, let's just do it anyway.
Make out. Yeah, I'm glad that you were game for that. I also retrospectively felt a little bit insensitive towards Ryan's moment.
But I was grateful that it was in such a wide shot
deep background.
that you didn't actually notice until later. It was actually kind of perfect. Yeah, and then you kind of went, oh.
But I was able to apologize to Ryan. About that, and say I'm so sorry.
I actually just egged his house. I am a first-time kisser, long-time fan. No, you can do no wrong in our house. My wife, her name's Blake. We love you in our house, and your work.
We love you too, Andrew.
You do something that only you can do, and that's a beautiful thing to watch in action.
I love you.
Hey, I love you desperately.
Ήταν το βίντεο, παιδιά μου. Αγαπώ το και τους κοιό. Ελπίζω σας άρεσε και εσάς όσο μου άρεσε και εμένα. Γράψτε μου κάτω στα comment αν σας άρεσε και αν έχετε κάποια άλλη ιδέα για βίντεο ή άλλο βίντεο συγκεκριμένο για interview ή behind the scenes ή whatever, πείτε μου να το δούμε μαζί. Κάνετε μου ένα like να ξέρω ότι σας άρεσε και έχω να πω ότι αυτό είναι το τελευταίο βίντεο για το 2024. Την επόμενη φορά που θα σας δω είναι το πρώτο Σάββατο του 2025. Ελπίζω να περάσετε καλά τα Χριστούγεννα σας και την πρωτοχρονιά. Γενικά τη ζωή σας όλοι και θα σας δω στο επόμενο. Love you.